Hello. Okay. So I'm going to walk you through how to do an outline really quick. Let me share my screen. Coolio. All right. So you have an online template. If you go to how can I outline my paper, we have an outline template here. Um, yours will look more like this. Yours is going to look like that, pretty empty. I'm going to show you really quick how to outline your paper. I give you a little bit in my writing, but I'm going to show you here as a walkthrough. Okay, first and foremost, obviously, you need your question. The question we are going to use is called, Can humanity come together to save ourselves from climate change? All right. So this question obviously is pretty heavy. Majority of the questions you have will probably be pretty heavy. But this one, I'm just going to kind of show you how you can begin your outline. Again, your outline is yours. You got to use it for you so that you can write your paper. This is purely just an example. Okay, now that you have your question, you have main points that you want to hit. The bare minimum is three. I would highly suggest a couple more just in case, because you're going to find you'll probably need more. For this one, let's say, okay, can humanity come together to save ourselves from climate change? What point do we want to make? Well, we might have to answer the question, what is climate change, right? So obviously we kind of introduce the question, then we're going to say, you know, what's the first main point? What is climate change, right? That would maybe be our first point, but maybe some examples, details, and explanations. Here you might have to say, you first start out with what is climate change, and then maybe let's do what is the impact climate change on the planet. We're going to do the planet, not just people, but the whole thing, because we're in the middle of it, let's be honest. Um, some examples of it, you know, are we in it now? The answer is yes, but you would also use science and research. Okay, you want to use science and research to back these things up. Okay, you might even end up with a third one. I don't know what that would be for you, but that's just for the climate change part, right? And so each one of these is going to probably be a paragraph or two. Okay, so within that first main point, you're going to have multiple different paragraphs. Okay, I hope that makes sense to you. All right, for your second point, let's think of something. What about let's do historical disasters and our oops, what about this? Let's do our reactions to them. Okay. Oops, disasters. Probably learn how to spell. Cool. All right. So second would be historical disasters and our reactions to them. So we could do, I mean, I don't know how far back you want to go. Maybe do ones that might be more recent. I don't know if it matters. Maybe, um, how far back? I don't know. That's a question you might have to ask. I mean, you could do a lot here, but let's kind of hone in on a few. So for one, I think of Hurricane Katrina, right? So Hurricane Katrina would be one, like what was our reaction to that? You know, actually I'm gonna do a different one. Let's do San Francisco earthquake. San Fran earthquake. Okay, I'm gonna use that as an example. All right, so we're going back pretty far. Just kind of some like, and the reason why I say like the San Francisco earthquake, Hurricane Katrina, like, let's do another one. I think Chicago burned down at one point. Chicago. Right. So in other words, the question is, we go back in history and we look at these disasters. What is it that we're finding? Obviously, as we go further and further into the future, we're recognizing that for each one of these disasters, we've gotten more technologically advanced. Will that make a difference in how we're handling these, historical disasters? I don't know. That's the question for you to ask. So anyway, I'm brainstorming. This is what your outlook or your outline is going to look like. You're just kind of brainstorming, throwing some things out there, and what's going to happen is it's going to be something you have to organize later. But for now, you're just kind of throwing out ideas. We're going to work with it. Say maybe another thing we've got, what is climate change? What's the impact, right? We've got stuff going on. And then we think of other disasters that we've had to deal with in humanity, or at least in our, in America. Let's just hone into America. I guess that's what we could do here. And maybe the third point would be, maybe human, the human psychology, of stress response. Of stress response. I know I spelled that wrong. Sorry, I'm typing fast over here. Okay. So the human psychology of a stress response, what could that be? So during a disa- disaster, we have, maybe it's like maybe one during a disaster. Maybe it's during personal um, personal survival. Like, so there's a difference between personal survival and a disaster in the sense of, like, sometimes in a big disaster that's beyond us, maybe we aren't personally affected. Maybe we run towards it. Maybe whether that's the Red Cross or, the Army Reserve or something, right? Maybe there's, I'm doing that wrong. Anyway, but you know what I mean. So what are the things we do when we see others, right? So during a disaster to others, personal survival, right? What do we do in ourselves? Do we fight, flight, freeze, right? What's the thing that we do? Um, Maybe there's another thing that comes into this, like there's also a thing called what is that called? Something. Ah, shoot, I'm blanking. Hold on. Anyway, there's another one. I'm totally blanking on it all of a sudden. Right. So what might there be? Another way in which we have a stress response, and sometimes, trauma fatigue, trauma fatigue, or adrenaline fatigue. Oh man, there we go, fatigue. Right, trauma or adrenaline. I remember after the campfires, there was a lot of adrenaline. Everyone is running, 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 running. The problem is that doesn't last very long. And then after a while, we get a certain kind of fatigue. So the question is, how long before this fatigue might step in as a stress response to climate change, right? Do we just start giving up? I don't know. Let's do this. All right, let's do a fourth point. Right. So when you get this, you can copy and paste this into your own, whatever you want, and just kind of add to it as you wish. It's totally up to you. Again, this template is supposed to be for you, not for me. I do have you turn it in, but that's so that way I could see where you're at. Alrighty. So let's do maybe a fourth point over here. How about the fourth point might be current division in America, right? Maybe one part is how or when did it start? And again, look at research, don't guess. And then how can we come together? Or, like with this one, when it says how do we come together, or what might get us to come together. As a note, oops, come together. These might actually be like, this might be its own main point, and this might be its own point. This is going to be up to you. The idea here is to break things down. You're going to want to have a main point. You're like, okay, so what is climate change? Let's give some examples. Let's talk about it. And then you go, okay, so we know what climate change is. Now, the other part of, this question would be save ourselves, right? How do we save ourselves from? This is another thing you want to answer. So when have we had to save ourselves from something? Well, think of other historical disasters, okay? These are some examples. We're walking through them. How did we react to these particular disasters? Again, whether it was for others or for ourselves. Okay, so we can talk about that. Our third main point is then actually understanding the psychology behind those actual responses to stress. How are we reacting it to for others, for ourselves? Okay. And then again, when we talk about trauma fatigue, you know, trauma or adrenaline fatigue. Oops, I spelled that wrong too. Oops, fingers are going too fast. Okay. And then the last one we say, okay, so now we have, what is climate change? What are ways that we can come together to save ourselves? What's the psychology behind that? And then when we talk about humanity coming together itself, well, if we have to come together, that means there was division. So when was there division, right? When did it start? How did it start? Has it always been there? What brought us, what brings us together? Or can we come together is the question, right? That's going to be your final conclusion. But, you know, maybe I'll take this out because I feel like this is more of a conclusion. What might get us together is the question. One thing I would, you know, I don't know how divisive the country was before 9/11, but 9/11, right after that, I do recall there was a huge, like, we're America. We all linked arms because we had, the other to fight against. And that other was, whatever. Anyway, so 9/11 was an example of how people came together. So the question is, why did that work? Like, what did it make it, what made that work? And of course, it was national pride and we're America, we're Americans, we stand together. How dare you come and try and step on our land or whatever the heck the point was. Anyway, this is a way you might want to look at if that was your topic, right? So you see how big the question is. You want to take it in piecemeal, trying to define what some of the things are individually. So that way you can have one full paper. Your conclusion comes after you fill out all of the above. Right. So you won't have a conclusion when you finish this outline for the first part. You won't have it until you've finished actually writing this all out because the conclusion answers the question. Answers the question above. Right. The conclusion will answer the question above. Can humanity come together, save ourselves from climate change? Well, based on all this, right? Based on all this, the answer could be yes, could be no, could be we're not sure yet. We'll know when we get there. I think one thing, if you're actually looking at this topic, one thing I would actually look into is don't look up if you haven't already seen it. I wish I could show it to you. It's on Netflix, so I don't have a way of getting it to you. But anyway, blah, blah, blah. That is how you can do an outline. Again, there might be times where you might have to move a few things around. It's not going to be perfect, but I definitely want you to have a good outline, like a rough idea. If you have been doing research, which you have been doing, you might put, links here. Or say you had something on of climate change data. Right? So you could put a link here. Say you had something on for Chicago fire. If y'all don't know what that is, just look it up, the Chicago fire. It's a long story. Anyway, so take a look at these things. And, you might find the Decade of Fire. Any of the readings that we have might actually come and have a place in here. I'm not sure. You'd have to take a look. So anyway, all right. So that is all for the outline. Message me if you have questions. Go ahead and use the template. I would copy and paste it somewhere else. Don't actually type here. I don't even know if you can on this one. I think I have it set so you can't. But anyway, go ahead, have fun. And again, if you have any questions, please let me know. You're good to go.